is it like to live in North Korea? The most closed country in the world. New cars, elaborate constructions, technological investment in education, undertakings similar to the capitalist West. The dictator Kim Jong-un seems to have turned the capital of North Korea into a kind of showcase for his regime. A large part of the investments that are not destined to the country's nuclear program are directed to its capital Pyongyang, where, at least in an official way, all people have access to high-quality basic services, support and specialized care in the areas of health and education, in addition to specific entertainment platforms. However, does this reality cover most of the North Korean population? What mysteries are these mysterious people harboring? From now on, we'll get to know what it's like to live in North Korea, the most closed country in the world. Life in the capital. One of the most integral points when it comes to life in the capital Pyongyang is certainly the absence of signs of social inequality or the most simple health problems among the almost 3 million inhabitants of the region. Just a few days in the city, for it is notable the difficulty in locating a single homeless person or any individual barefoot or wearing old clothes and unsanitary appearance. It's also not an easy task to spot the disabled, wheelchair users, or someone with special needs. It's as if Pyongyang's residents didn't experience any kind of need, something even artificial. It is important to note that the capital of North Korea is home to only the country's elite, those people considered loyal to the government. The capital provides a significant number of taxis and other automobiles, and there are no signs of traffic jams in the region. At 9 p.m. everything closes, practically all the lights are turned off, and in the streets it is only possible to see images of illuminated statues of the leaders. Main constraints.
거기에도 더 검을 수 있는 사형의 승용차 휘파람은 우리나라 서해에 이름난.
The vast majority of North Koreans are not allowed to acquire their own cars. Although it is a law, it is evident that the main social elites, essentially composed of members of the highest ranks of the Communist Party, use state-of-the-art taxis or in Chinese sedan vehicles to honor of local manufacture. An even more privileged majority parade in modern models of BMWs and Mercedes-Benz that contrast with the light blue Mercedes of the 1980s, intended for the transport of guests, and with old public transport trams. In general, access to health care and education are free in the country, as well as the consumption of electricity and gas. The passbooks for controlling each family's expenses gave way to cells and credit cards, accepted only in North Korea. Most residents of the capital receive an estimated state salary of around 60,000 South Korean won, equivalent to $50 at the official exchange rate. The amount paid for similar products is immensely lower in the comparison between inhabitants and foreigners, who are prohibited from attending establishments intended only for locals. In general, there is nothing to prevent the middle class, if you have enough money, to consume foreign products, visit cafes or dine in more refined restaurants.
2008년 12월에 시작된 조선의 3세대 이동통신 봉사가 국가의 깊은 관심 속에 더욱더 활기를 띠고 진행되고 있습니다. 3세대 이동통신 가입자 수가 급격히 늘어나고 있고, 그에 따라 이동통신봉사의 수준과 질도 더욱 높아졌습니다.
On the other hand, when it comes to telephones, it is worth noting that the devices only arrived in the country in the mid-2008s, just over a decade ago, but their use is extremely limited. There is no possibility of making international calls even for foreigners who live in the country. North Koreans take pictures with their devices and exchange MP3 files with each other, but amazingly, there is no front camera nor selfie sticks. The inhabitants of North Korea also consume national books and read Workers' Party newspapers on their cell phones, television and radio only national with 100% of the programming provided by the state, and as impossible as it seems, believe me, North Koreans do not have access to the internet in the year 2022. Communicating with the outside world even with bordering countries is a practically impossible task. The world of illusions and deprivations. If there's one thing that works in the most closed country in the world where the vast majority of the population believes it's the best country on the planet, the best place to live on earth is propaganda. The North Koreans who were born after the division of what was then Korea in 1948, they believe that their supreme leader is the closest one can get to a divine being outside the capital. The poorest population goes hungry and some people even die of starvation as large scale agricultural production is promoted by the state. North Koreans are conditioned from the first moments of childhood to deeply praise their greatest leader Kim Jong-un, who today is already the third of the dynasty started in the aforementioned year of 1948, with his grandfather Kim Jong-un, then supported by China and by the Soviet Union. Although much information about life in North Korea is scarce, the very few tourists, when allowed to visit the country, can only circulate on the streets and travel accompanied by a government agent. Dialogue is only allowed with authorized people of the agent, provided the first years of life local children learn to live a constant state of vigilance, so that no one speaks or does anything against their leaders. Information like this that proves the lack of justice and freedom in North Korea is only known in the free world because of the few cases of people who managed to flee the country. Prisons and forced labor camps are full of people who are not criminals in practice. Maybe it is for this reason that many help themselves in places of terrible conditions without wanting anything in return, simply because everyone is suffering at the hands of the oppression of an inhuman system.
Because I was born there, I just thought those people who carry guns were born to carry guns. And prisoners like me were born as prisoners.
Did you know America existed?
Not at all.
Did you know that the world was round?
I had no idea if it was round or square.
Patrol is so intense in the most closed country in the world that even people's thoughts are the subject of long interrogations, whether in schools, factories, and especially in these forced labor camps. Prisoners are forced to listen to long speeches about the glory of South Korea. North, after a full day of hard work, almost no food, but if caught during exposure they can be severely punished. Final considerations. If we need to talk about numbers, the UN estimates that the North Korean government holds about 120,000 political prisoners in captivity, housed in these concentration camps where they die of hunger, are assaulted, raped and enslaved. A prolonged period of famine caused thousands of people died in the 90s, and food shortages continue to be a real problem. As mentioned throughout the video, civil rights are not a completely abstract concept, and the idea of democracy seems never to have been strengthened in the intellectual formation of these people. Almost 26 million people who are still deprived of their fundamental rights. And will we ever see this scenario reversed? And this was the second video on the Curious Universe channel. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to strengthen the channel, know what to do. Leave your like, interact with us through the comments, and share the video with your friends. If you weren't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe and activate the notification bell. See you in the next video.